Welcome back to Come Talk with Aimee, the show where we stop whispering about intimacy and start saying the quiet parts out loud. Today, I've got the deliciously wise Adam Fitzgerald in the hot seat, and we're diving straight into the deep end, relationship hierarchy, aka why our culture keeps putting romantic love on a damn pedestal and expecting everything else to fall in line. We're talking about how this setup feeds codependency, sidelines friendships, and honestly, it's tired. Adam and I also unpack how queer relationships naturally throw a sexy little wrench in the system and why that's exactly what we need. If you're ready to unlearn the scripts and reimagine connection on your terms, stay right where you are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Come Talk with Aimee. So excited to have you. Happy Pride Month. Yay! We are here and we are queer. Yes, we have an amazing guest today, Adam Fitzgerald. Welcome, Adam.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking to you.
Likewise, I'm so excited to dive in today on the topic of relationship hierarchy, how that has to do with codependency and the queer edge. Before we dive into our topic, let me introduce you to Adam. Adam Fitzgerald is a queer, non-monogamous sex relationship and intimacy coach based in southern Spain. His work is driven by the belief that even though we have all absorbed so much shame and guilt when it comes to sex and pleasure, with gentle focus on the self, guided by curiosity and compassion, some of that can be unlearned. Yes, Adam. Adam is certified in embodied intimacy and relationship coaching from the Embody Lab and is a professional member of the Association of Somatic and Integrative Sexologists and the Gay Coaches Alliance. His book, Recovering from Recovery, is available worldwide in paperback or ebook, and his essays have been published by the Huffington Post and Thomson Reuters. He has been a guest on Joy 94.9 Radio's Hide and Seek, on the podcast Sex Ed with Tim, and 40 Plus, Gay Men, Gay Talk, and is a speaker for the Sex Lectures. Adam, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. I'm very excited that we're kicking off Pride Month. I have to say, you are our first he, him on this podcast.
I like to hear that. There are too many he-hims featured in the world. Good to hear.
Although we do love the he, hims. I'm so excited to jump into this topic today with you, Adam, relationship hierarchy, how it has to do with codependency, and how the queer experience can help us get out of those patterns. Yes, and yes. Let's dive in.
Let's get into it.
To start out, can you tell us what is relationship hierarchy? How is it defined? Who usually prescribes to it? All of the things.
Relationship hierarchy, when I talk about that, it's talking about the fact that we as a society generally put romantic partnerships sort of up here at the top tier level, and everything else comes below that. Depending on the structure, sometimes that goes romantic relationship, extended family, friends. Sometimes friends are above extended family, but in almost every situation, we put romantic partnership not only as the top tier, but as above, and everything else is very secondary and comes behind in the way we prioritize and the way we relate and the way we spend our time. All the other relationships come far, far behind a romantic partnership. That is the top of the hierarchy. As far as who prescribes to it, everyone, that's not 100% true. People are sort of now, and have been for a long time, but it's becoming more and more popular to sort of examine that. In general, in our society, it is very accepted that your romantic partnership is your primary partnership and everything else comes behind that.
Yes, it is everyone. That's how the world and society largely prescribes and functions, for lack of a better word.
I mean, to a large degree, functions. Our society, our systems are set up to support that hierarchy. Absolutely.
We see that in the media, films, whether it's romance or any type of films, there's some element of that romantic relationship and it being the end all be all.
Highest form of love.
The highest form of love. And that one person to take care of all of our needs.
Yes. And that to me is and we're going to dive into this. That is the biggest problem with this relationship hierarchy, is that we then put everything we need, everything we want, all of our social and emotional support on a single human being who is a human being. We also take that responsibility on ourselves when we are human beings as well. And sometimes we're tired. Sometimes there are things we're not good at doing. There are things we're not good at helping with. Sometimes we're unavailable. It puts an incredible amount of pressure on our relationships because we've decided universally that that one person should take care of it all, and I should take care of it all for that one person. I think it's unreasonable.
I agree. For a lot of my life, I did prescribe to this quote unquote normative relationship romance hierarchy. It's only the last several years where I've realized, after a lot of therapy and learning about codependency, which we're also going to get into, these dynamics of how they fit with one another. But it was in doing that work that I realized this does not make sense. I'm non-monogamous, and we're going to talk about that as well. It makes more sense to me, but I didn't know that that was an option. I didn't
It's
know
not presented as one. We learned that this is the way things are. That's how we learned about relationships and what we should do and what we should look for and how we should enter relationships. Everywhere we looked as children, this exact hierarchy was presented to us. Of course, you didn't know. I didn't know either. I was very deeply ingrained in it as well for many years, because you have to undo this learning that you never even knew you learned, because in your brain, it's just how things are.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, we just accept it without questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is wild. I'm glad as a mom to see there's more options that my daughter will understand. Or we're starting to see that in some of her shows. I talked about this in one of my earlier podcasts about how in her shows there's some where they're non-binary folks, where there are lesbians, gay characters, and they're teenagers, which I love. I
love
love
that.
that they're teenagers. There's a lot of this question. She's just, yeah, of course. She doesn't think anything of it. I love that for her generation.
Yes, me too. Me too. Change doesn't come easy, but it's important that we acknowledge that some really beautiful changes have happened and are happening. Not everywhere, not for everyone, but on a very large scale. The existence of other types of relationships was not something we grew up with. It's worth celebrating to say it may be controversial now, it may cause blah, 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 the hubbub and all of that, but it exists. When we grew up, it didn't exist. It was not in front of us. It's a huge step. It's a beautiful step.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Before we get into all of the nitty gritty of this, we just talked about my daughter's generation and having more exposure than what we had, and to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. That's why we're here having this conversation. We can get the word out, let other
Absolutely.
people learn what we have learned, that there are
Yes,
options. There are options,
absolutely.
different ways of
Yes.
doing things.
It's good to pat ourselves on the back every once in a while.
Yes. Adam, what is codependency?
It's funny, it's one of those terms you hear, it's thrown around
Mhm.
all the time. It can depend a little bit on who you're talking to. Very general term, codependency is an excessive reliance on your partner. When we get into more psychological terms, and when we're talking about severe codependency, there are these roles of the giver, and that's the person who completely sacrifices themselves for the needs of the other, and the taker, who is the person who puts their own needs first, and everything must revolve around resolving their needs before their partners can even exist. That's a sort of a very extreme version of it. I think there's a prevalence of codependency in that idea of excessive reliance on a single other person. When I'm working with clients, we talk about emotional and social support. If your relationship is primary and basically your only source of emotional and social support, you are leaning towards codependency. You're leaning towards an excessive reliance on one other person.
Can you say that again? Because I want it to sink in. Maybe for me, for people listening.
Sure. It's this idea that another person can be your sole source, social and emotional support. The belief that you can be that for another person. The thing is, it's not realistic. Sometimes you have a shitty day and you don't have the energy. You're a human being. There are
Yes.
things that you're not good at. I have to admit that there are things my partners have not been good at, and I rely on someone to support me in a way that they're not really capable of doing so, that causes frustration and anxiety and pressure on the relationship. Um,
Resentment.
there are also, I don't know why this is sort of controversial to say, but sometimes you just don't want to. Do you know what I mean? And that should be okay.
Shout it from the rooftops.
Sometimes my partner doesn't want to deal with my shit. That
Yes.
should be an option in a relationship. It's not an option because we put in this codependent dynamic that we've eliminated the other options. That's where I think we get into putting an unnecessary amount of pressure on a relationship. We end up resentful and we end up disappointed in ourselves and the other person because those expectations are unrealistic.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have so many thoughts. As a recovering codependent myself, it's a lot of pressure going back to this idea of perfectionism. We're putting unrealistic expectations on ourselves, on our partner. Am I good enough? There's that narrative going on simultaneously with the narrative of, are they meeting my needs? They're not. They should be my best friend. They should be, my sexual partner. They should be cleaning the house. Like they should be,
It should be
helping with
everything.
kids, like everything. Those are just a few of the many lists of, things, but it's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves. It's a lot to expect of another person. And frankly, it does not lead to good results always.
It has no compassion for the humanness of ourselves or the other person. People have shitty days and they're just not available to give as much as they normally are. It doesn't account for that. People are not good at certain things. We force our partners to be our everything, to fulfill all of these needs, all of these desires, all of these roles, even
Yep.
if they're not really good at that or comfortable with being that. What happens is it leads to so many potential crises, big and small. Because
Mhm.
what happens if that person is unable, unwilling, or unavailable? And you have nothing in place to support you. Your partner has nothing in place to support them when you've made each other that sole source of support. It's just going to lead to resentment, to crises, to fights, disappointment in the partner and in yourself. We really need to look at that.
Yes, we've all had that friend or been that friend who has gotten in a relationship and all of a sudden they just disappear.
Gone.
Gone. You don't know, do they need something? Meanwhile, they may be in a relationship and after a while they want to reach out, but then they don't know how to because, oh, I've kind of disappeared or that relationship isn't the same and they need somebody to talk. We've all been in that situation where we isolate ourselves in a way
Absolutely.
through this hierarchy and through this expectation that our romantic partners should be the end all be all and the everything.
I love that you brought that up because it's not just what it does to the romantic relationship, but the damage this mentality does to all of the other relationships in your life. You send a
Yeah.
message directly to the people who, prior to meeting this new person, were a priority in your life. You no longer are. Why do we do that? You're actually cutting yourself off. You're diminishing important relationships in your life. You're reducing the amount of love in your life, the support, the social aspect. You're reducing all of these things. We've learned that that's what we're supposed to do. We got to
Yep.
make this person our everything, and everything else is on some level below. The fact that it just reduces so much love in your life should be enough for us to want to undo this.
Absolutely. We've kind of already gone there, but just to take a step further, what's the correlation between relationship hierarchy and codependency?
In my mind, relationship hierarchy leads to codependence inherently. When we take this one type of relationship, this romantic partnership, we put it so far above everything else, we inherently isolate ourselves inside that capsule of that relationship. When we view romantic relationships as something so far above our other relationships, there's an automatic isolation. That isolation leads to codependency.
Yes.
It's rampant. It's everywhere. It's what we learned. It's what we think we're supposed to do. The result of it is you end up in a codependent situation without outside support.
Absolutely. You're in a relationship. You've won the gold because that's what society tells you. You've won the gold. You've found somebody that you can be with and that can be your end all be all. And then you're in this relationship, but you're feeling lonely. Wait, I shouldn't be feeling this way because I have this person. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They want me to be this and that. I can't do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the space. I'm tired. I've had a shit day, like you said. Yeah, it's so funny because as I'm talking about it, I'm like, why do we do this? Why?
Why do we do it? The dumb example I always give is playing golf. I
Okay.
absolutely despise golf. I could not think of a worse way to spend 4 hours of my life.
I love it.
If I start dating someone who loves golf, go play golf
Yes.
without me. Go do that without me. Keep your golf friends. Keep that activity that makes you happy. Keep that thing that like gets you out there and gets you exercising, gives you joy, lets you connect with people who enjoy the same thing that you do. Go golf. You see people often give up the things they love, or conversely, you see them keep the things they love and it creates resentment and anger in the relationship. And in that instance, why do we do it? Please go golfing. I'm going to go see my friends and do the things we like to do. Then I'll see you later. Don't approach the world and our romantic relationships in that way.
Yes, absolutely. We end up giving up a lot of ourselves. That's what happens to a lot of people. The self is not maintained. That is a lot of times celebrated unnecessarily and at our own expense because, oh, I should be giving up. We should have the same wants and needs and interests. You don't expect that of your friends. You don't expect that of your family members. So why should this one person, how boring in a way that it's all the same interests. And it does end up becoming boring. And as somebody who was in a marriage that I really was prescribing to this hierarchy at the time and this relationship dynamic, I lost a lot of myself
Absolutely.
because my opinions and my thoughts, I wanted to align with them. And all of a sudden, my friends aren't gelling or whatever. It's something that I said at the beginning of this conversation, I've been doing a lot of repair on and questioning and bringing in that compassion. I love that you use that word. We need more compassion for ourselves.
Absolutely. Deeply ingrained, you learned this. And even when we understand it, when we look at it, we say, okay, I'm in this. You have been in it for years.
Yes.
And you need to have compassion for yourself. It's going to take time to undo that pattern, but we don't. We think once we figured out what it is, we should be over it. That is a complete lack of compassion for the self.
Yeah.
You spent decades in a pattern. Give yourself a little time to rework that because your brain is hardwired to think this way. This is correct. You have to have compassion for yourself. Love what you said about the loss of self, because for me, there are two signs that someone is in a codependent relationship. They both involve a loss of self. The first one is a feeling that if you're not okay, I'm not okay. If my partner is deregulated, particularly if it's for a reason that has nothing to do with me, and I'm deregulated, obviously not talking about them having been in a car accident or something horrible, but they come home and they're in a shit mood. If I can't be okay because my partner's boss was a dick today, that's a sign that I'm giving up myself, that my happiness is completely dependent on the other person's emotional state.
Yes.
And the reverse of that is when you find yourself not really happy, not really able to celebrate when your partner has a success or a joy without you. That is a big sign that of that codependency, of that over-reliance, that it deregulates you, it scares you if they are happy and joyful or successful or whatever it is, whatever sort of positive thing they're happening, not involving you. If you can't be happy for your partner, you have sacrificed yourself.
So true. The reality of life is whether it's small thing or big things, joy and pain are happening day to day. Shit days along with the glory.
Sometimes all in the same day.
You are diagnosed with, a chronic condition or somebody in your family is being able to recognize that this is life, but not losing yourself, and being able to hold space for that person in life because it's not binary. Speaking of not binary,
Segue. Love
segue.
it.
Good segues. How does this conversation come into queerness? How do queer relationships change this idea of relationship hierarchy, romantic relationships? How is it different? And the idea of codependency.
One of the worst things about growing up queer has become one of the greatest gifts in my life. That is, when you grow up queer, whether that's your sexual orientation, your gender identity, whatever sort of identity of queer you have, you are outside the norm. You know what you feel, what you want, who you identify as, what you desire is not accepted. Getting better. As a person who was born in the 70s in rural America, it was so clear that who I was unacceptable. You learn to break down everything. It is one of the beautiful gifts of being queer is we learned as kids We shouldn't have learned this as children, obviously, but we can carry this into our adult life. We learn to break down everything, to analyze it, and to figure out what it was so we could fit ourselves into it. Traumatizing and terrible, and child to have to deal with that. You start doing it at a very young age. But the gift that comes from that is when you come out, when you become an adult, if you hopefully grow into acceptance of yourself, you realize it's all nonsense. You don't have to do any of that. So the beautiful gift of being queer is that when you do come into your authentic self, you can actually decide what it is you want and decide to create your own structure. I see very often in the queer community, long before this was a public conversation, we were building our own structures of relationships. We were, whether it's open relationships or polyamorous relationships, even socially. This is obviously not all queer people. Some queer people very much subscribe to the hierarchy and go into a codependent state. I experienced a lot of people who didn't sacrifice community just because they were in a relationship. I didn't, at the time, when I was younger, I loved that. I didn't realize how powerful that was. How powerful it was to be breaking down this accepted structure. As far as queerness goes, we have this gift coming out of pain and struggle, as I said, but this ability to take a step back, look at what a thing is, look at the structure of the thing, and go, do I want that? Does that work for me? Because I can take this piece and I can take this piece. But this piece where I have to isolate myself and reject my community, harder for straight people to break down those structures. The structures are built for you. They were built for you. They've been pounded into your whole life. They make sense if you don't break them down. They are created for heteronormativity. In a way, for straight people, it's harder to break away from that structure. You didn't have a background of it not making sense.
Yes.
You just were raised that way. You never thought about it. You never questioned it. You find a person, you find the one, you fall in love, you get married, you have babies, you buy a house, and you're happy. That's what you were told.
Yeah.
And as a queer person, we were told that, but we were like, that's not really. So
You're like, no.
we were breaking it apart from a much younger time. That is how queerness has helped. Now that queerness is more open and we're having these conversations, can help to break down these structures a little bit.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And also, I don't know why this visual came to me. I mean, for some reason, last night as I was thinking about this discussion, colorful, confetti, pride, the relationship structures in the queer community, it brings the rainbow out, it brings color to life. It brings the color to life. There are several movies like this where it starts out black and white. And you start looking into the nuances. That's when the color comes in.
Yeah.
You start questioning the norm, and that's when the colors come in.
Yeah.
With the queer community, that's where the colors come in to life in general, to society, and to the world.
Oh, I think so too. I don't know if everyone would agree with that, but I think so too. I remember, it must have been 20 years ago now. I was walking down the street in New York. This was before open relationships and non-monogamy, polyamory and all that had become part of the public conversation. I ran into a friend of mine. He was with someone I didn't know. I said hi to my friend, and then I said hello to this other person. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew each other. This is my husband's boyfriend. I love being queer. It just was one of those moments where that's awesome. That is so awesome. Now it's getting into the straight community, and straight community is expanding their definitions. At the time, a straight person would never, ever say to me, this is my husband's boyfriend or my husband's partner or whatever. I love it. I love that we've been doing it for so long.
The trailblazers for different non-traditional relationship structures and breaking down that relationship hierarchy that is so unattainable and not compassionate.
It is not.
For people who are listening in, maybe am I in a codependency relationship, or what Aimee and Adam are talking about rings true for me? How can I break free of that cycle? So one is the codependency piece and how to break down and come out of the cycle of codependency. And the other is how can I adopt and explore these non-traditional relationships, what's out there, getting out of the idea of relationship hierarchy.
I think it's probably easier to start with the second one. It's really asking the question, examining, am I trapped in a structure that doesn't serve me? Have I bought into a relationship hierarchy? Have I moved toward something resembling codependency? Recognizing that, obviously, we have to do that. You can't solve a problem unless you admit the problem exists. When I'm working with clients, I have 4 qualities of a healthy relationship. When I say healthy relationship, it doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean you never have any problems or conflict. It means you're not in a codependent loop. These are in order. This order may surprise some people because number one question, do I have community?
Mm,
That to me is the most important quality of a healthy relationship, that you have a strong community. You have
yes.
friends, you have other people. You rely on people who are good at things that they're good at for your needs and wants outside of your primary romantic relationship. If you don't have community, you cannot have a healthy relationship in my mind. It's what we talked about before. You are putting unrealistic expectations on your partner and yourself to fulfill things that they sometimes can't fulfill. Without community, you do not have a healthily dependent relationship.
Yes. Can I just celebrate
Go.
that number one? Like, this is so huge. Community. I also want to point out everyone probably feels like they're part of a community, but really ask yourself, who am I going to when I'm having a bad day, when I want to celebrate, when
Mhm.
I get the promotion, when I do get bad news, when I want to go for a walk, when I want to go for a drink? Who are you calling?
Who are you
Is it that
calling?
one person, or do multiple people come to mind? That's a community,
Exactly.
right? You and one person, that's not a community.
Right. And who's calling you?
Yes, thank
If you are actively part of your community, you're also there for others.
yes.
That makes us feel good as human beings. We like to be heard and loved and taken care of. We also feel good about ourselves when we hear and love and take care of others. If you're not doing that for people, that's a huge sign that you do not have a community. You are in a codependent situation where you put everything on one person.
Yes, yes.
The number two is, does your relationship have curiosity? Curiosity to me is the antithesis of judgment. An easy example is when you say something and your partner has a very overblown reaction, right? They have a disproportionate reaction. If you go, why do you always do this? I don't understand it. That's not compassion. You're judging them. If you take a
Oh,
step back and go, I wonder what just happened that made them feel that way, that made them react that way, that caused that reaction. I wonder if that's about us or if that's about something else. Same for yourself. Everything we examine in our partners, we also need to examine in ourselves, probably more in ourselves. We talk a lot about anxious attachment style. If you're the person who freaks out and sends 47 texts when you don't know where your partner is, a lot of times what we do is go, God, I hate that I always do that. I'm such an asshole. I overreact. I'm so crazy. I'm so needy. We have all these negative words. A healthy relationship, you're able to go, let's look at what that was. I'm curious about why I felt compelled to send 40 texts in half an hour.
yes, yes.
And being curious about what's happening when there is conflict, when things arise, being curious about that. The third part is, are you compassionate? When you start to understand these things that are happening, you've been curious about them, you have a better understanding of them. Do you have compassion? Primarily, you have to start, but do you have compassion for yourself?
Yes.
For how long this pattern has existed with you, for how many people have taught you to be this way? Can you really love that part of yourself that is trying to protect you? And love that part of your partner, that healthy relationship. If I see my partner have an angry reaction when I know that they're hurt, I can be curious about that. Wow, I know what the deal was with their father. I understand that his first reaction is not going to say, I'm hurting. His first
Mm,
reaction is going to be to get defensive. Can I be compassionate about that when that happens? Like, we all have shitty days, you know? The last one for me, which is what most people put first, is communication. People say, oh, if you have a healthy relationship, it means you communicate well. But in my experience, with clients, in my own life, if you don't have community, curiosity, and compassion, you are unable to communicate healthily. You need those things
yes,
to have
Adam.
open,
Yes,
honest communication.
yes. Those three things are foundational for the communication.
Communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this framework. Like my coaching self is digesting
Mm,
everything that you just said and really, yes, yes. I'm just celebrating that people are going to be hearing this. It's going to be out there in the world. It's just so huge. It's so huge. I love also that you brought it back to it's not just looking at our partner. It's looking at ourselves, having that compassionate curiosity about ourselves. This for me actually was a very key and pivotal point in breaking out of a relationship hierarchy that I wanted to break free from that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, is still wanting to prescribe to that,
mm,
which, you can, but the codependency piece in that relationship hierarchy for me was not realizing that I had voice and choice, not realizing where is my part in this and realizing that I actually had control, that I could control my reactions or what is my background, right? What is the shit that I'm bringing to the table that's being triggered? And what is that saying? And really having that curiosity, that compassion with myself, examining it from within has been so key in my healing, in the way that I move in relationship with others now, whether that's romantic relationships, sexual relationships from a casual perspective, friendships, etc.
I love that for you because that feeling of not having a voice. I don't have the right to have a voice. I can't have a voice. My voice has been taken away. That curiosity part is who told you that?
Yes.
Where did I learn that? Who is the person or persons that's so deeply ingrained in me that I don't have the right to have my own voice? Compassion is about realizing how old that is, how long that's been a truth for you. Being really, really gentle with yourself. It's not just going to happen overnight. Oh, that's wrong. Now I have a voice. No,
Right.
you have to learn to have a voice. That's where that compassion comes in. You're almost learning a new language. You're really learning a new language because it's a language you have not used for your entire life. I love that for you. I love that you've come to that place that you now know you have a voice. You deserve to have a voice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. For a long time, I didn't feel that way. And I didn't know that I could challenge things. I want to also say that we have been mentioning perfectionism. In my opinion, perfect is a myth. It is
Exist.
a myth.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It's something that we want to attain to. No, there's no perfect. It's a word. It's an idea that is not attainable. I bring that in this context to say that, again, with the compassion and curiosity, it's a continual relationship with self, with others. I get triggered. Even though I have words, language, understanding around things, shit still comes up. That surprises me that I thought, well, I've worked through this. Going to what you were saying, how long have we been holding on to these understandings of self, of these structures, recognizing that this understanding is just a couple years old. Whereas my previous understanding was 40 plus years old. That's so huge. I love that you brought us there. I'm so in love with your framework. Please, we will be seeing more of this from you.
As far as what you're saying about there's no perfect, I would go so far as to say there's no healed. There is no completely healed. We hopefully learn to understand why we have the reactions that we have and learn to change our next step when we have that reaction. The sense that if I do enough work, I won't be triggered. That trigger is there. The work is about when triggered, how do I now learn to respond differently? An expectation on yourself, it completely lacks compassion that if I am triggered, I've not put in the work, I'm not healed. There is no healed. Those experiences happen to you. They're in your somatic experience, they're in your psychic experience, they're in your emotional experience. You will get triggered.
Yes.
The work is about how do I change what I do after I'm triggered, not about erasing the trigger.
I got chills when you said that there is no healed because I feel like, and I've been there, and sometimes I'm still there. This is a good reminder that we're chasing the healing. It feeds into the perfectionist narrative. I want to be perfect at healing. I want to arrive and I'm healed. And
I want to arrive.
I want to arrive there. It's a continual journey. It's a journey that we do not get off of in a way.
No.
There are different views and vistas through it. It's all part of the learning and the understanding of the human experience, our own experience. I love that because especially for both coaches, and in the coaching community or the health community where it can be very much seeking for healing. I love the emphasis. I really did get chills that there is no. Thank you for that. Beautiful.
Oh, you're very welcome.
For people who don't know about examining, are very happy with the relationship hierarchy, but thinking like, ooh, maybe I'm codependency. How can people move into this interdependent relationship? Can you speak a little bit to that?
First of all, if it works for you, you can stay there. That type of relationship, that hierarchy does not work for me. I feel like it doesn't work for a lot of people. If you want to stay in that and it works for you and you feel safe there and you have a loving partner and you feel good about what's happened, I never want to prescribe what people's relationships should be. If you are feeling, wow, am I in a codependent relationship? How do I get more interdependent? Again, curiosity and compassion, go easy. It can be, honestly, I use the word traumatizing, but it can be very unsettling to realize that you followed a hierarchy that you were not even aware of. I did things how I was supposed to do things
Yeah.
and realize that you were in a codependent situation.
Mm.
That can be very, very upsetting. Be gentle with yourself. If you wake up or listen to this podcast or read a book and suddenly go, wow, I'm isolated in a codependent situation and I thought I was happy and I'm actually not. Be really easy on yourself. That can be a very, very upsetting realization. It's undoing things that you have believed for a very long time. The thing I always recommend is baby steps. The antithesis of codependency is community. Take those little steps to start to try to build your community. Start with social media. Join some interest groups and have some conversations online with people. Call that friend who you ignored, who you dropped. Genuinely apologize to them. I can't promise they're going to take you back. Some people, they may have really hurt that person. But I will say a lot of people feel isolated.
Yes.
And so reaching out, we have this fear of reaching out because, oh God, I'm so needy. So many people are in this situation where they're isolated within their romantic partnership and don't have communities. Reach out, start with somebody you used to spend a lot more time with, start with family. The other thing that's so simple and sounds so stupid, but like join a group that does something you're interested in, a book club or whatever it is, and take those little steps to try to start to build out your community. It's important to ask honest questions with curiosity and compassion. What is my partner not really very good at? Like, what am I not really good at? Without
Together, but that I want to enjoy.
what do I want to do? But the classic one, you often have one person in a relationship who wants to talk about their feelings all the time, and another person in the relationship who hates talking about their feelings. What if you said, that's an unfair expectation. My partner, from the time I met them, has not been someone who enjoys talking about their feelings. And I get mad once a week that that person can't talk about their feelings. Well, that's on you. That's the person you met. Who do you have in your life when you want to talk about your feelings? Is that your sister? Is that your best friend? Is that someone from your church or your community? Stop expecting your partner to do things they suck at. Stop expecting yourself to fulfill roles that you're not good at doing. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do the work on being better if you have trouble talking about your feelings. I'm not saying don't do any work to try to improve that. That's such a classic problem with couples. And it's usually heterosexual couples. It's stereotypically, but often the woman wants to talk more about the feeling, man does not. What would happen if you found someone else to talk about your feelings with? It really makes people have reacted so strongly to me that they even say, I feel like I would be cheated because they're so stuck in this hierarchy. Not only is it the right thing to do, but not being in it and isolated in it is wrong and a betrayal of your partner. Take small steps. Call one person. Join one group. Worth saying that curiosity is also about watching the way you react or your partner reacts and being curious if that's okay.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if you join a book club and your partner says disparaging things or makes nasty comments or why you got to go hang out with those people or what I'm not enough, be curious about that as well. If you are making an effort to break down a little bit the codependent structure between you, your partner says they're on board, then has those reactions at tiny little steps of you stepping into your own community, examine yourself as well. If you say to your partner, I want to do this, I want us to like expand our community, then your partner comes home and says, I had a great night tonight. And you go, oh, what, did you just have more fun without me? Let's be curious about that. Where's that
Yes.
coming from?
I see this where one person starts building community, changing a relationship structure and dynamic that has existed. So one person is starting to feel more supported. They have their community. They're excited about this. And then they want to come home and share it with their partner. And the partner, like, wait, it's a kind of a ego to a person's ego, or there's resentment around, wait, I'm not enough. Like, I love that you're bringing curiosity about that and say, oh, well, what can I do? Whether that's community for myself, are there things that I gave up because my partner didn't like doing that I can do while she's at book club? I can go, I don't know, glass blowing or something, something like that. Already we talked about how it can be isolating. I love that you said, ask yourself, is this okay? We've normalized placing ourselves in a relationship, giving up ourselves when we have a partner that's like, why are you going to XYZ? Then you're like, oh, yeah, well, I should be with my partner.
Mm.
Further step into that isolation. If you then come to your partner with that curiosity about, hey, this is really important to me, this is valuable for XYZ reason, see what your partner says. How is their ability to allow you to grow in community?
If you're really going to be honest with yourself, if you really are interested in examining these things, is asking yourself, what are you getting from it? Why are you here? Why did you choose to be here? If your partner has that reaction that they don't like you having outside friends, that they don't like you doing things without them, I bet you already knew that. What about you made you drawn to that person? What about you said yes to that? And I always go back to this. We got to look at our partners. Most of the time, we really have to look at ourselves.
Yes.
Why am I here? Why am I choosing this? What am I getting from this? What is the shadow part of myself that like, I don't want to acknowledge? I chose this relationship dynamic. Why am I still in it if it's not working for me? Curiosity isn't always easy, especially when we're really asking those questions of ourselves. That's where that balance of compassion comes in and is so vital.
Yes.
When you realize why I am in this pattern, why I am still here, when you really figure out those reasons, they're probably not going to be easy ones.
Yeah.
Really loving yourself through changes that you want to make in your relationships across the board, whether that's your friendships, your casual sexual partners, your romantic partner. We don't talk a lot about work relationships, but work relationships are huge in our life, especially if you're in activism or in something where you're doing really passionate collaboration. Those are relationships. And you need to really have that curiosity and compassion about how those dynamics are set up, what you want to change.
Yes, absolutely. And what you were saying about curiosity. Curiosity is a tough and brave road to take in a lot of ways. That's where the compassion comes in. We share this is on my website, and I always like to say compassion, curiosity, and coming.
Yeah, and let's not forget the pleasure part. When we talk about this stuff, do you have pleasure in your life? If you
Yes,
don't, what's going on in your relationship? If you
huge.
can't regularly, and I'm not just talking about sex, but I am also talking about sex.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rounded.
yeah.
I know that this is a whole other podcast in and of itself, but what are some alternative relationship structures outside of the traditional romantic relationship hierarchy framework that we've been talking about today?
These have been part of the queer community forever. So there are two major categories of relationship. It's important that when we talk about this, we also acknowledge that every relationship dynamic, if it's healthy, is constructed within that partnership, whether it's partner or partners. A healthy relationship is tailored to the people within that relationship. When I talk about these two categories, I want to make sure that we understand that it's not one or the other. These are the general categories. The first is having an open relationship, referred to sometimes as non-monogamy, referred to often as ethical non-monogamy, which is not my favorite term since it implies that monogamy is automatically ethical and non-monogamy needs to be qualified, but that's another thing.
I think we share. I think we just came up with our next podcast.
Again, we got to acknowledge the history and that beautiful book, The Ethical Slut, and like,
Yes.
the world that those women were facing trying to share non-monogamy had to put this ethical thing. It is ethical. It's honest. But anyway, all open relationships are structured differently. It generally means there's a primary romantic partner. Outside of that relationship, there are not other romantic relationships. There are other sexual relationships. And then polyamory is there is loving romantic relationships outside of just two people. That can mean three people all in a relationship together. It can mean my friend that I ran into, I know a couple, they are husbands, they are married, they each have a boyfriend. I'll spend time together, but the two boyfriends aren't another part of this relationship. It's not all four of them together. It's the husbands, and then they each have a boyfriend. Polyamory has many, many structures. If you haven't, definitely recommend Polysecure. It's a book by Jessica Fern. She talks brilliantly about how actually hierarchical relationships have bled into polyamorous relationships. Often polyamorous people have a structure where they have a primary relationship, the other people are secondary. She talks so beautifully. I never thought about it in that way, about that relationship hierarchy is so deeply ingrained, even when we are exploring things outside of it and going into polyamory, bringing more than one romantic partner into our life, we're maintaining a hierarchical structure.
Yes. Creatures
And
of
what
habit.
does that do? It's deeply ingrained. The thing is, non-monogamy or polyamory, it's not for everyone. If you balk really, really hard at that idea, be curious about why. I'm not saying you should be doing it, but if you have this visceral, that's wrong reaction to that, chances are you're trapped in this hierarchical structure where you believe you should be isolated with your partner.
Hmm.
I'm not saying you should go and start having sex with all kinds of other people. I
Sure.
think it can be great, and I'm very non-monogamous myself.
It's a great
Yeah, I
option.
think
So choose.
it's a great option. Looking at those types of open relationships, polyamorous relationships, can really help you understand what hierarchy am I trapped in?
Yes.
What tunnel vision do I have? Something that's so far outside of your scope can help your scope expand just a little bit. Maybe you go, ooh, I don't want to have my partner to have another partner, but I really wish I had more friends.
I love that. The options are endless as long as everybody participating is in agreement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Consensual, consenting adults. It doesn't necessarily have to all be romantic or sexual relationships. It can be that these needs may be met through somebody at work, a friend. Not that we're shifting that person fulfill one need and then shifting it to another person while still in a relationship with the other person. That's a whole other thing. But I love that so much. One other bit of this when you were talking, it reminded me of a friend who's also non-monogamous that, posted a comment on her Instagram stories. In this day and age, why are people in monogamous relationships cheating when non-monogamy is a thing? Valid question. I think that, again, so much we can unpack there.
Mm.
There are reasons some people that are not going to choose non-monogamy. They're wanting to be in that monogamous relationship and yet reap the benefits of non-monogamy.
And there's that compassion. Not that I'm saying eating is okay, but we have a society that said if you don't want to be monogamous, especially for heterosexuals, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
When you are sane, when you grow up, when you're normal, when you're responsible, when you want to be a good person, you want monogamy. Having compassion for a society that has pounded that into people so that when people don't want monogamy, they don't feel like they can choose that. They
Yeah.
force themselves into monogamy because I'm supposed to want this. When we have compassion for people and their history, we also have to have compassion for what society has pounded into them.
Yes.
The choices that they feel were taken away from them, even if they're not conscious of it.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are not conscious of it. They think I'm a bad person because I want to have sex with other people. I want to push it down, push it down, push it down. That didn't come from them. They were taught you are an immoral, bad person if you want to sleep with anybody other than your spouse.
Absolutely. And this is full circle as far as driving home that compassion piece, driving home really how much it's ingrained in us as society. There is like a huge judgment piece that we can put on ourselves, and also not knowing that there are other options, right? Thank you for bringing that in. So huge. Adam, this has been amazing.
It's been
Thank
such a joy talking to you.
Thank you for joining Come Talk with Aimee for Pride Month, for helping us understand the queer community a little bit more and how the queer community has really been at the forefront of driving this dialogue and of questioning relationship hierarchies and looking at other alternatives. Love it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Before we go, here at Come Talk with Aimee, we need to come to completion. This month for Pride, we're coming to completion, aka Just So We're Queer. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you
Got it.
ready?
I think I am. I'm ready.
All right. So, what does queer joy look like for you?
Oh, what a great question. Queer joy for me looks like being, as cliche as it is, out and proud with everything going on in the world. Just enjoying your life, enjoying your fellow queer people, enjoying your sex is an act of resistance. Queer joy for just doing what you love, being who you are, and doing that in spite of everything that's going on. I celebrate you for doing
Yes, we love it. Yes,
it.
yes, love it. What advice would you give someone who's newly stepping into their queerness?
um, Actually, going back to everything we were talking about today, be easy on yourself, be easy on the people around you. It took you a long time, probably, if your story is anything like mine, to accept your queerness. Give that time to resonate and be accepted in the world. If you come out and you're expecting everyone to be okay right away, it's going to hurt so much. Remember how long it took you to love yourself and accept it? Give a little space for that to change. People's reactions aren't perfect right away. That doesn't mean they won't change. Many people in my life were shocked or appalled or had negative reactions and have changed over time.
I love that, bringing in that compassion and curiosity piece again. Love, 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 love. What does being queer mean to you?
I don't remember anymore, to be honest. You know what I mean? Being queer is so central to my identity, has been for so long. I use the word queer. You know, some people use the word gay. I refer to myself as queer. I guess what that means to me is I can evolve. I can change at any point. You know, there was one point when I referred to myself as gay and I would have only said I have sex with men. As the community has evolved, as the world has evolved, so has my sexuality and my identity. Being queer to me means I can change, I can evolve, I can adapt. My version of queer today doesn't have to look like my version of queer 2 years ago or 2 years in the future.
Yes, that's so beautiful. I love, love, love that. Oh my goodness. And now you spurred another question in me, but I feel like it's a whole other podcast episode. Some people will use queer and some people don't like that word and identify more as gay. I'm resisting asking more questions about that.
Is a whole other podcast. I would say we have to bring in a whole panel of people because the
Yes.
differences in the community are really, some people absolutely despise that word. I get it. It was used against us for so long. I have chosen to embrace that word. There's a whole history.
Absolutely, yeah. Last question. Straight folks can learn from queer folks.
Queer, we're not a monolith. Something I see so often in the queer community is people celebrating their full identity, whether they are single or in a relationship. For straight people, it's so pounded, it's so pushed into you that you are complete when you find someone to love. I learned from queer people, I am already complete. Straight people can learn that your identity, your wholeness, your authenticity as a human, your value as a human being is exactly the same, whether you are single or in a relationship. I would love to see more people embrace that.
Yes, yes to the yes to the yes. What a beautiful way to come to completion. Just so we're queer. Adam, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the wonderful wisdom that you have given our listeners today and me. Please let us know in the comments your takeaways, what you have learned, and any feedback that you have for us. As always, like, subscribe, share with your friends, your families, your frenemies, all of the above. We love it. And as always, thank you for coming. Please come again and again and again. That one hit deep, didn't it? Big love to Adam Fitzgerald for showing up with all the truth bombs, sass, and smarts to challenge the tired ass relationship norms we've been force fed. If you're out here trying to build connections that aren't just carbon copies of the status quo, good. You're not broken, you're evolving. So, here's your permission slip, babe. Prioritize your friendships, question the hierarchy, and maybe let your love life get a little weirder in the best way. Slide into my DMs, tell me what landed, and hey, share this episode with that friend who's stuck in the codependency loop. You know the one. This has been Come Talk with Aimee, where intimacy gets loud. See you next time.